Last year, my family and I went on a summer vacation to the coast. My parents paid for my hotel room, but I had to share it with three rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room for themselves. I was promised time off, but I ended up ruining the trip because I refused to be my sister's free babysitter at 23 years old. I was also forced to move out of my parents' house because I was constantly made to play the role of helper and babysitter on family outings. I wanted to do my thing on vacation, but I ended up helping out with these kids instead. I complained about it to everyone, but they reminded me that I was there for free. After that, we didn't do much of anything, except go on an art gallery tour, which is always a hit with me whenever I'm at the coast, but a total bore for the kids. This year, my parents are planning a beach trip for June, and they thought I would just ride along like last year, but I decided that I would drive and pay for my own transportation. I would like to have my own room during my hotel stay. My parents were surprised and tried to remind me about the cost, but I assured them it wouldn't be an issue because I have a good job and a car that runs decently. That's when things got ugly. I explained to them that I would be driving myself and paying for my own expenses. I don't want to be treated like a child again, like last year. My parents told my sister, and she called to yell at me, threatening to spoil the vacation if I didn't take responsibility for my actions. I'm out doing my own thing while she wrangles her three boys. Last year, she treated me like a problem child and didn't let me do much of what I wanted. I'm an adult now. I deserve a vacation of my own. My sister stopped talking to me, and my parents are still trying to get me to ride shotgun with them so we can all be quiet. I'm still refusing, but the pressure is getting to me. Ida, I know they'll. To make a long story short, she went on a rant about how hard it is to be a parent to triplets and how I should help because I'm young, single, and she needs a break. I stood firm on my decision, and now she is mad at me. I'm expecting a call from our parents any minute now that I'm off work, so I can fill you in on what happened. I'm sick of the whole keep the peace mentality that sacrifices in response to my message to my sister. My parents started arguing, and now my sister is blaming me. My nephews are upset because they won't be going to the beach. During lunch, my sister called me and basically said, "I have no life, which is why I have time to help." I recorded her message and shared it with our parents. That's the current source of their argument. But here's a little more. My parents have agreed that last year was unfair and that they will never force me to babysit my nephews again. They are also furious with my sister for making me feel like I should help her out because she thinks I don't have a life. My brother-in-law is basically refusing to participate in any of this and is spending most of his time at work. I didn't leave home until I was 22 years old because I was trying to save money while going to college. A scholarship covered a lot of my expenses, and living at home kept me from getting into rising debt. My parents and older sister had become very comfortable with me helping with the childcare of my young triplet nephews. I'm grateful for my part-time job, but after college, everyone treated me like I had all this free time on my hands. They even convinced me to go on a family vacation, but I ended up babysitting my three nephews, who were 6 years old at the time. I even had to share a hotel room with them. The kids ignored me the whole first night until I called their mom twice. I felt like the bad guy because I wanted to do other things on the trip. Because I am family, I wasn't included in that vote, and it's hypocritical that the family doesn't enjoy it as a whole, so it doesn't happen. After last year's terrible vacation, I decided it was time to move out before summer even ended, surprising everyone because I didn't give them any warning. I got a great job almost immediately after college, thanks to an internship, and used the move as an excuse to cut the train ride from 45 minutes to 15. My sister was the most upset about this because it meant I wouldn't be able to babysit on weekends for free. Despite her best efforts, I eventually gave in, usually in exchange for pizza. This became the norm. Then, last month, my parents announced plans for another family vacation to the same coastal location. They basically wanted it to unfold the same way. I saw through their trap. I knew that if I rode with my parents and let them pay, so I casually mentioned that I would drive myself and pay for the hotel room. That's when things started to go downhill. My parents realized they couldn't trap me like before, so they started begging. My sister practically tried to gaslight me into going along with her demands, but I refused. After days of harassment, at first, my family was against me. My sister contacted our parents, who then contacted me. During the morning, my parents were on the phone with me. My sister tried to call me while I was at work, but my phone was on silent until lunch. So, all she could do was leave messages and texts. Despite this, she was persistent and eventually managed to reach me while I was eating lunch. Basically, we had a heated argument and as a result, our parents canceled the entire vacation. They later admitted that they were just trying to pass the blame because they were embarrassed and completely felt shamed. I reminded them that kids don't ask to be born and that I was doing my best to forge my own path. And I brought up the fact that my father had a similar advantage from his parents. They let him live free at home while he was in college, which effectively ended any argument my parents had left when I was a babysitter for them. They also told me that no excuses could explain why they made me their go-to free babysitter even though I wasn't even living at home anymore. My sister called me during lunch, and after I gave her the facts, she betrayed her true colors by suggesting that my weekends are better spent helping her out. She claims to be a stay-at-home mom with a decent-paying husband in a nice house that we own, not rent. I'll be honest and say that my nephews aren't really my responsibility. They were imposed on me and I'm supposed to take care of them. I wanted it to end there, but my sister hung up on me in an angry rant. I recorded the call and showed it to my parents, who were furious and basically went to war with her. My sister dug in her heels, blamed me, and maintained her belief that my life should revolve around her. I told her that was the most entitled and narcissistic thing she had ever said about me. It took days, but her husband finally intervened and made her apologize to me. I'd never seen her animal behave like that before, but she was about to burst into tears when it was finally admitted that my sister's skepticism of strangers was a contributing factor to my status as her go-to babysitter. It was never about the money, though my brother-in-law assumed that my sister was paying me to watch her kids after I left my parents' house. In fact, she gave me enough cash to buy pizza for the kids and myself, but she never gave me gas money for months. She had been shortchanging me. I was furious with her when this came out during her insincere apology. She was then forced to pay me what she owed me, using her own savings. She seemed really hurt about it. My brother-in-law also expressed regret for his own apathy and for letting my sister bully me. He promised that they would hire a regular babysitter going forward, which would be a small setback for them financially, but would allow my sister to have date nights again. Then, the other night, we had a family gathering at my parents' house, and everything was discussed. When I found out about everything, I apologized to everyone, and then my parents rescheduled the family vacation. I still intend to drive myself and pay for my own hotel. In fact, I'll stay at a different hotel if my sister tries to force me to use childcare, which I've already told her she won't. She treats me like garbage anymore. After all, she thinks my whole existence should revolve around her. She withheld payment for babysitting and kept the money for herself. Last year, she made me the only babysitter on our family vacation, so I didn't get to enjoy myself at all. Is it any wonder people hate her so much after she treated me like that? I'm not her babysitter, handyman, or butler. I'm her brother and a grown man. I'm sure they're sick of hearing about this, too. My mother started crying, and my father remained silent. I responded by saying that tears don't affect me and that they should stop enabling my sister. Unfortunately, my sister called me again to yell at me, claiming that our parents had told her they weren't going to deal with this any longer, and to figure it out on her own. Oh, and they also told her to be nicer to me. I imagine her eyes twitching as she screamed on the inside. Later on, my brother-in-law called me to get my side of the story. Here's hoping this drama finally comes to a close. However, the family vacation is still scheduled for late June. I have already reserved my room and requested a day off work so that we can all depart on a Friday. My room is also not on the same floor as the ones my parents, sister, Bill, and nephews will be using. On my own time, when we go to the coast, I will do whatever I want. You can bet that I will visit those art galleries, indulge in local cuisine, and simply enjoy being carefree. The family vacation is over, and with it came some good and bad experiences. On the plus side, my parents didn't let my sisters babysit me, which was a relief. On the negative side, my sister tried to figure out where I was staying, which got her in trouble with her husband. To avoid any future problems, I had already told the hotel that they wouldn't share my information with anyone, except the police, so I was prepared. On the day of the trip, I left earlier than the rest of the family because I knew they wouldn't be able to get moving as a group until at least 10 a.m. over the phone. They refused to tell anyone. I departed promptly at 9 in the morning. You will not be able to check in until 1 p.m. However, I wanted to give myself plenty of time to prepare, so I sent out a group text and raced to complete the 3-hour drive. My parents were furious since they had planned a family brunch along the way, but I pointed out that they hadn't informed me about it, so it just as I had planned. was canceled in exchange for fast food. I got to the hotel early, but it was too early for check-in. I informed the front desk staff that I was there to make sure that my parents or sister didn't give them my information. They said it doesn't happen often, but I know for a fact that it does. Now I'm covering my behind while they deal with my mother, sister, and 3 possibly crying boys trying to guilt them into giving it to them. I wanted to know if they decided to grab a bite to eat before heading back to the hotel to check in. When I returned over an hour later, I noticed my parents' SUV in my invoice. I checked to see if the lobby was clear, and the clerk refused to tell me that my family had asked about me and where I was staying. I later found out that my sister had tried to push the issue, but her husband had silenced her. At 13:14, I checked in, went to my room, and then called my parents. I didn't mention that I knew what they tried with the clerk, and they conveniently didn't either. Then, we all got together as a family to tour around. My sister once asked me to watch her kids, but I said no because I knew exactly what she was up to. She would act like she was going out for a minute, but then she'd be gone for an hour. I confronted her, and her husband told her to stop trying to make me watch their children. What was my sister up to? She broke down in tears and started sobbing because she needed a break. Her husband scolded her, saying he was a tired man, but he wasn't complaining. My mother gave me a nasty look, so I confronted her. I threatened to quit our family vacation immediately if she even suggested that I should be watching the kids. I'm sick of her and my sister acting like it's my job. This made my mother sob even harder, and she began to repeat the words "you're right" over and over again. She tries to guilt me by acting pitiful, but I simply tell her I'm right and that we should just let it go. Neither my mom nor sister did anything else that day. Upon returning to the hotel after dinner, my family crowded the elevator, but I declined to wait. They asked why, and I explained that I would wait for the next available elevator. My sister gave me a knowing look, but I sat in the lobby for 15 minutes, watching YouTube on my phone. Eventually, I boarded the elevator. It was on a different floor and on the opposite side of the hallway. I had a great night, and the following morning we all went out to breakfast, but I made sure they left first. I was the last one before breakfast, so it was fine. Then I informed them I was going to have my own day and that I would meet them at the aquarium and a couple of other places. But otherwise, I was going to have it all to myself until family dinner. They were fine with it, and the rest of the day unfolded as planned. Also, that night at the hotel, I was fine until my sister caught me leaving my room. She must have been searching the entire floor for me. I returned to my room to relax before dinner because I was exhausted from walking all day. My sister was waiting for me just down the hall when I got ready to meet them for dinner. She tried to corner me and accuse me of ruining her family vacation by wrangling her kids, which I referred to as bullshit, because my parents were assisting her. I finally had enough of being the scapegoat and told her to get FCAC off. I told her I didn't care and that I was going out to dinner, but she followed me to the elevator anyway. We didn't say a word to each other, but I didn't remain silent. I informed my parents and brother-in-law that my sister had followed me to my room, and she was scolded like a child. She felt sorry for me, but I told her it was over the party. I told her to stop being a brat and grow up. The days of her being able to dictate my every move were over. I then made my way to my car and was the first to dinner. When everyone else arrived, my sister appeared downcast, but we avoided talking about what had happened earlier, which was fine with me. Throughout the evening, my sister avoided eye contact with me. I also decided I didn't care if I rode the elevator with them this time. I told them straight out that unless there was an emergency, I wouldn't mind. I had to put a "Do Not Disturb" sign on my door in case someone came knocking on it. But on the last day, everything went swimmingly. Neither my mom nor my sister bothered me. By this point, they had completely given up. Throughout the vacation, I played with my nephews occasionally. I wasn't a total jerk. I didn't stonewall them. I just kept being the entertaining uncle, not the babysitter. The kids didn't seem to mind. They were content to play. I even bought each of them a single baggie of crystals and polished stones to bring home as mementos. There was some minor drama involving my sister and her husband, but it was just minor disagreements that I chose not to pay attention to. Overall, I would say the vacation was a success, because it finally hit home for my mom and sister that the old ways of dealing with me are over. I now have my own life, and they really don't know when to let me be alone. Dear mom and sister, I warned you that I would go to extreme lengths to ensure that you listened. I had a phone conversation with my parents and told them bluntly that they were enabling my sister, which led to the previous family dynamic. I told them that we will never go back to how things were, so if they think that's possible, I'm going to snuff it out for good. My parents then told my sister to stop blaming me, for the love of God. My sister had a mini pity party about how no one loves her, and my parents had to pull her back from her narcissism. My brother-in-law hasn't called. I assume he's just staying neutral, but this isn't good for his marriage or our family's relationship. With all due respect, I apologize, but your wife has taken things to a new level. At the moment, my parents are urging my sister to see a therapist, saying that she can't handle the stress, to be a mom and juggle the habits of her old life to woman up, as they say. Either way, if you insist on thinking I should have been your personal slave, babysitter, watchdog, etc., then we can't be together. Maybe we can get along and move past this crap. My parents and I had a lengthy conversation in which they apologized. For the time being, we have agreed that I will maintain some distance from them until Thanksgiving. Last night, over cold beers, I had a man-to-man conversation with my brother-in-law. He informed my sister that she needed counseling or he would separate from her. They are now in the process of finding a counselor. At the same time, he informed me that during our sister's marriage, my sister was a real witch at home. She was a loving and charming wife, but she also confessed that she enjoyed being an only child. We're almost the same age. So my sister harbored resentment toward me for a long time. But she finally admitted that she needed counseling, and we're going to start as soon as it's set up. In addition, they've found a good babysitter to watch my nephews. We reached an agreement that this whole thing was just a terrible situation that needed to end. Now that we're both on the same page, we can move on. On a lighter note, I've got a girlfriend. Our first date is tonight.